Mark Consuelos joined his real-life wife, Kelly Ripa, as host of Live in 2023. He was previously a guest host but replaced Ryan Seacrest for good. The co-hosts have a funny segment called Stump Mark. Call-in viewers offer two statements, and Mark Consuelos has to decide which one is true within 60 seconds. If he doesn't, the player goes on to win prizes. One recent call-in viewer did stump Mark Consuelos, but then got stumped themselves during a trivia game. She proceeded to curse at the live hosts. We've had Alexandra Breckenridge on the show. She mentioned the names of two of her chickens. Mark Consuelos told a viewer named Rachel. He asked her to name one of the chickens to win a prize. The at-home viewer said before dropping an expletive that was censored by the show. Kelly Ripa took the cursing in stride, replying, "I feel you." However, her husband was slightly taken aback by the unexpected swear word. Unfortunately, Rachel couldn't think of the correct answer and lost out on a prize. The chickens were named Crystal and Ruth. "Oh Lord," Rachel said before the show cut to commercial. As live fans know, Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos met decades ago when they both starred on ABC's soap opera All My Children. They eloped to Las Vegas, Nevada, year after meeting on set. The couple went on to have 3 children, Michael, 28, Lola, 24, and Joaquin, 22. In addition to hosting Live with Kelly and Mark Consuelos has continued his acting career. He recently had a guest arc on ABC's 9/11. He has a role in the upcoming Scream 7 movie in early 2026. While Kelly Ripa has made guest star appearances on various shows over the years, she hasn't had a huge role since the sitcom Hope and Faith ended in 2006 after 3 seasons. In a candid interview with Entertainment Weekly, Kelly Ripa opened up about her decision to take a step back from acting. "It's not that I don't appreciate it. It's not that I don't love it. But I really am devoted to the show and my Let's Talk Off Camera podcast," she said. The former soap star added, "I feel like my plate is full. Also, we have 3 adult kids, and I like to be present in their endeavors. Our daughter Lola is now starting to perform in the music scene in London, so I like to be able to be present if she needs or wants me there." Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos teased an All My Children reboot a few years ago, but fans shouldn't expect to see her on it if it ever happens. They say live television is a kind of public prayer, equal parts hope and peril, spoken into a vault that might answer back with a roar. For every polished monologue and rehearsed laugh, there is a crack in the glass where the unpredictable finds its way in, a forgotten cue, a flubbed line, a call-in that flips the script. On a humid Tuesday that smelled of coffee and hot lights, that crack opened and let a very human thing tumble through. Rachel had never meant to be famous. She lived in a narrow house that leaned into the wind like an old photograph, worked afternoons at a florist, and had a laugh that surprised people because it was too loud for Midtown. She called herself a maybe sometimes television watcher, excitable, but not exactly devoted. That morning, on a whim brought on by too much tea and a slow day at the shop, she dialed the number flashing on her living room television during the Stump Mark segment. The rules were simple. 2 statements, 1 truth, 1 fiction. Mark had 60 seconds to decide. Mostly, it was a game of timing and charm. The prize was a gift basket and a small patch of fame, your voice on national radio for a minute, and a clip that might live forever in the internet's basement. Rachel had been daydreaming about a new set of gardening tools, a ridiculous, very specific desire, and she thought, why not? Her voice on the line was exactly like it always was, frank, slightly breathless, with the faint accent of someone who grew up near a river and still walked on the shoreline in winter. The call operator introduced her. "Hi, this is Rachel. I'll take the Stump Mark challenge." When Mark's voice came through, easy and warm like a dog greeting someone at the door, Rachel felt a silly, incandescent pride. She knew Mark's face from daytime and the odd dramatic turn. "Kelly, Kelly's laugh was the sound of sunlight cracking sugar, sat across him. They made a perfect counterpoint, his steady, her quicksilver. Everyone in the studio had seen the headlines for years. The story about two soap actors who eloped in Vegas, the decades of marriage, three grown kids who sometimes made it into conversation like rare ornaments on a familiar tree. On television, they were always larger than life. In tiny moments like this, they were somehow perfectly ordinary. "Okay, Rachel," Mark said. Two statements. "I once ate a whole jar of pickles before a callback," or "I am allergic to lavender." Which one's true? Rachel thought of the jar of pickles in the grocery aisle that had smelled like summers at her aunt's house. She thought of lavender soaps that sat in the shop like tiny purple islands. She laughed into the phone. "Pickles," she said. "You love the pickle jar." "Correct." Mark said. "You win. Name one of Alexander Breckenridge's chickens to take home a prize." Rachel blinked. Alexander Breckenridge. She knew the name in the way a casual fan knows a lyric. Familiar, evocative. She said the word a private exhale. And then she swore. It was a small thing on paper, an expletive clipped in raw, one syllable that is sometimes used like punctuation among friends. It zipped through the phone like a sparrow through an open window. On live television, anything said is magnified. The studio lights held it like a bead of mercury. The sensor beep ate it in a high, clean sound, the world's way of blushing. Kelly's laugh came first, warm and immediate. "I feel you," she said, bright and generous, like someone handing a blanket to a stranger. Mark, who prided himself on being a smooth anchor in the chaos of live, took a breath. It showed the way his smile dipped, then recovered. He asked Rachel to name the chicken again. "Crystal." Rachel guessed because Crystal is a name that felt like early evening, like a glass half full. It wasn't right. "Ruth," Mark said gently. "Crystal and Ruth." "Oh, Lord," Rachel said, shame collapsing into humor. The set cut to commercial with a practiced motion of theater curtains. The audience in the studio clapped politely, then let out a ripple of laughter, the kind that clears the air but leaves things slightly rearranged. Backstage, reality is quieter. It smells of coffee, hairspray, and the metallic tang of tech. There are scorecards, cue sheets, and a line of producers who move like a flock of birds when something unplanned happens. Mark slipped off his earpiece and leaned toward Kelly. "You okay?" he asked with a kind of half-stern, half-warm look of someone asking about a small scrape. Kelly shrugged, the corners of her mouth lifting. "She's human," she said. "We're all human." It was a small, luminous moment, and for those few breaths the cameras had done what they do best. They had made two living, breathing people visible, flukes and all. That clip would go online, would be remixed and shared and turned into commentary the way a stone is turned in a child's hand. For Rachel, it was a confession into a public space. For Kelly and Mark, it was an afternoon's work and something more, a reminder that the show was, at its heart, an arrangement of human beings offering themselves to each other. Kelly had been on daytime forever, or so it felt. Her life had once spun on the axis of acting, sitcoms, and the halogen glow of sets where lines were drilled and emotion sculpted. She had been candid in interviews about stepping back from a certain kind of acting, about the fullness of a plate and the taste for being present. "It's not that I don't appreciate it," she had said elsewhere, a line that had found its way into the air backstage. "I really am devoted to this show and my Let's Talk Off-Camera podcast." She said it with the lightness of someone who had chosen her life and carried its consequences. Mark, meanwhile, carried the actor's restlessness like a quiet flame. He slipped into guest arcs, into scenes where he could be someone else for a while. Scream 7 was on a list of things he would eventually do, lines of a future that seemed both near and distant in the way film schedules are, immediate in idea, nebulous in reality. He loved the place where performance met the everyday, the The stage of a daytime show was a kind of hybrid, half-script, half-improvised confessional. After the break, the cameras came back. The producers had smoothed the moment into a segment, a friendly tease, a few jokes, and a reminder that the rules still mattered. Rachel didn't get the prize. The chickens' names, Crystal and Ruth, live now as small, domestic trivia in the memory of 1,000 people. But the thing that would linger was the tiny rupture that had opened the door to a larger truth. Partisan of our shame, quick to judge, we forget how often gentleness is the only right response. That night, in the floral shop, Rachel swept the floor and imagined her voice floating through networks, becoming part of a montage of modern life. She replayed the words she'd said, felt both guilty and relieved. "It's a swear," she told a potted fern as if the plant might contain judgment. "It's a human word,"